Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It being 7 o'clock on August 16th, 2022, I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners. And tonight, we have for an invocation the Reverend Keisha Gardner from Mount Zion Baptist Church. Is she present? Welcome, Reverend Gardner. Commissioner, please rise.
All right, let's go ahead and look to the Lord in prayer to begin our meeting. Let us pray. Father God in heaven, our divine Father, we come to you at the beginning of this meeting, Lord God, to invite you into this space with us. Lord, you said that where 2 or 3 are gathered in your name, there you are in the midst. Father, we look to you for the direction and insight and wisdom as you have called each of these leaders to lead this county for such a time as this. So we are asking, Lord God, that the discussions that will go forth this evening, the decisions that will be made, the initiatives that are on the table, Father, that we look to you for that direction and wisdom and insight for those that are living in our county, Lord God. We know that we are faced with many challenges and things before us, Father God, but we thank you that we can look to you for the direction that is needed for the people of our city and our county. So we thank you, Father, for being in this place. We thank you for us being on one accord together, like-minded, with the purpose of making this a great city and a great county. So Father, we just thank you for being with us. We thank you for leading and guiding us. In your son, Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Commissioner McKissick will lead us in the pledge. Clerk, please call roll.
Commissioner Bruder-Melgart. Here. Commissioner Gisler.
Here.
Commissioner Hall. Commissioner Hepler. Commissioner McKissick.
Present.
Vice Chair Morales. Present. Chair Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Ray. Commissioner Sugars.
Here.
Commissioner Stubbs. Commissioner Tenier.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you, clerk. Next item is approval of minutes of the August 3rd meeting, committee of the whole and regular meeting, and can we combine with the minutes of the closed session? Is there a motion to approve those minutes? Moved by Commissioner Hepler, approved by, or supported by Commissioner Bruder-Melgart. Is there any amendment, correction to the minutes? Commissioners, seeing none. All in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We'll now enter public comment time. Anyone wishing to address the board on any matter, please approach the lectern and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone wishing to address the board? Welcome.
Hello, my name is Nancy King. I'm a Kalamazoo County resident. I'm the Executive Director of COPE Network, Community Outreach Prevention Education Network. We're here asking for support of a new location for our organization that has been offering substance use education, harm reduction, recovery support, overdose prevention. I'm the parent of a daughter who died of a heroin overdose in 2012, and I struggled to find the supportive resources. Last year, we lost our building when it was sold that we'd been operating out of since 2017. We're offering opportunities for people with substance use disorder, people in recovery, families affected by substance use disorder, and the community, a place to heal through art, movement, music, a place where people can come, feel safe, and rebuild connections. Currently, we're in a temporary space that isn't large enough to provide the programming that we had been offering. We've been looking for affordable space for a year that provides the type of building we need, a large community space, multiple classrooms, and ample parking on a bus line. Leasing such a space has been demonstrated to be unaffordable. This is a time-sensitive request since buildings in this community do not stay for long. Loneliness and isolation are detrimental to our health, and many people with substance use disorder and their families feel lost. Our organization is unique because we bring everyone together, increasing opportunities for support, being able to heal without having to identify through stigma and shame. Our organization started by helping families understand substance use disorder, how to set boundaries that they can live with, and be supportive of their loved ones. We give people an opportunity to learn, to be creative, to try something new through healthy connections, get resources, and even have court paperwork signed for participating in our activities and our programs. Our programs were supported by volunteer instructors, many who are in recovery themselves, allowing us to offer activities that are free or through donation. As an organization, our programs were not expensive, but to offer these opportunities, we need the space and location to be able to do that. Together, we can build a compassionate community. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next, Director Patton, welcome, sir.
Thank you and good evening, Commissioners, Administrator. We're here tonight in urging you to support funding for our behavioral health urgent care and access center. This will be the first and only behavioral health urgent care and access center in Kalamazoo County, as well as the city of Kalamazoo. We have raised some local dollars to build and to construct this facility. It's going to be on the 418 West Kalamazoo Avenue, which is just a block down from this building. And the goals of the program is to align ourselves more with public safety and also with EMTs, take some of the strain off of the area hospitals, particularly the emergency departments, where people are waiting for for long hours to be seen. And we hope that that can take some of the pressure off of the hospital. Our overall goal is to increase access for behavioral health services for the population of focus. And the population would be people with serious mental illnesses, people with co-occurring substance use disorders, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and of course, children and youth with serious emotional disturbances. What we're proposing to do is, as part of our larger system, is to deliver comprehensive coordinated care that provides access to evidence-based practices, interventions for individuals with complex needs, particularly people that are in crises and emergencies, and then deliver integrated care for behavioral health and physical health risks and needs. I think what really prompted us to do this is that we know that the suicide rates are increasing in Kalamazoo County. And we also know that public safety, which we received a $500,000 3-year grant to form a collaboration with all the public safety officers in Kalamazoo County, which we're very proud of. We want to be able to take some of the pressure off of public safety officers that have to attend to people in emergency departments, and so they can get back on the street and do the duties that they need to do to protect the public safety. We're very proud of that collaboration. It is a formal collaboration. But we also are partnering with our local hospitals, and we use all the hospitals, including our state hospital, Kalamazoo Psychiatric Hospital. So I urge you to support our request for funding for $2 million to finish the construction of our behavioral health urgent care and access center. And certainly if you have questions, I'm here to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? See the mayor of Kalamazoo.
Thank you. Yes, tonight, I'm David Anderson. I live in the city of Kalamazoo, and I have the honor of serving as the Director of Housing and Facilities at Integrated Services of Kalamazoo. So I'm here to speak in support of our request to create this urgent care facility. So one thing I just want to remind everybody about is that when I started working for what was Kalamazoo Community Mental Health, I was a county employee. At that time, this was over 2 decades ago, the mental health services were provided directly as a department here at the county. And there were changes in state law, and the mental health code was rewritten, and that provided an opportunity for local entities, counties, to create authorities, to create a separate mental health authority, which now is doing business as Integrated Services of Kalamazoo. So that was 25 years ago that county commission took that step. 21 of those years, we have been led by Jeff Patton, our CEO, who spoke first. And what you did back at that time has given us the opportunity to take advantage over and over again of best practice, seeking grants and funding, and doing what we can to completely focus on addressing the public mental health needs for our friends and neighbors who live here in Kalamazoo County. This is another step in this process. It is another innovative step in this process, I would suggest, that does 2 things. Not only makes mental health services more immediately available, but reduces stigma in providing in a very public way, that opportunity for people to take care on a walk-in basis of taking advantage of mental health service needs in that moment. So I appreciate the partnership we've had for a long, long time between Integrated Services and the county, and very much hope you will support our request to build this very important new facility right here in downtown Kalamazoo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Anyone else? Let's see, the Reverend Brooks and welcome.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Mixus. I'm with Trauma Recovery Associates, a resident of Kalamazoo County. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity and to speak and introduce Ken Schmidt, our clinical director at Trauma Recovery.
I'm Schmidt. I'm a resident of Comstock Township in this county. We are a nonprofit organization, Trauma Recovery Associates, here in Kalamazoo for the last 20 years. We conduct small groups for adults to assist their recovery after childhood trauma. We also train mental health professionals and spiritual caregivers in trauma recovery and have conducted training across the United States and around the world. In the last 10 years, there have also been recovery groups running for vulnerable populations in our county jail, in the county probation program, and the domestic abuse shelter. All of our programs are provided at no cost to the participants, thanks to the support of local donors, grants, and local foundations. We have requested an ARPA grant in order to expand our programs throughout the county in response to the pandemic. While trauma might seem to be an extreme term, traumatic events are simply occasions when we're left feeling vulnerable and powerless, when we feel overwhelmed and aren't sure how to respond. And depending upon our internal and external resources, that can have long-lasting and negative consequences. I think that the experience during the pandemic of fear, not knowing where or when a disease might strike, whether it would be dangerous or even deadly, a pandemic that resulted in loss of employment for some people through no fault of their own, that led to food insecurity, housing insecurity, or loss of home, interruption of education and formation of children and adolescents and young adults. All of these are some of the ramifications of the traumatic event that we call the pandemic. I believe that many people have already gone over an edge and are struggling to get back on their feet. Others are barely hanging on. And lots of folks are saying that they'll be okay as soon as it's over and things get back to normal. And they're going to find out that they're not okay and that things didn't simply go back to the way they used to be. Mostly, we don't recover from traumatic events on our own. We need help. We have lots of people in our community who need help. A few years ago, Trauma Recovery Associates was one of the organizations that worked together, and it led to this commission's resolution to build a trauma-informed, resilient, and healthy Kalamazoo County. I applauded that action, and I think we need more. We don't need to just be aware that there's trauma. We don't need to be just informed of what trauma is and what it does. We need to be a trauma healing community. We need to find ways to educate and support people and help them get the resources that they need to recover and to move forward in a healthy way because they have been victims of traumatic events. The programs of Trauma Recovery Associates do that. We've proven ourselves for 20 years. They are evidence-based programs, they are cost-effective, and they are designed to be accessible to the entire community. So I ask then, commissioners, for your support for our programs, that you provide programs like ours that make us truly a trauma healing community. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Schmidt. Welcome.
Hi there. It's on, isn't it? Okay. I'm Janice Morris. I'm a lifelong resident of Kalamazoo County. I currently live at 3727 Greenleaf Circle in Kalamazoo. I'm speaking in support of COPE. I'm not comfortable speaking publicly. This is the most public I've ever been, but I am going out of my comfort zone to tell you the importance of COPE and how it has positively affected my life. I have a loved one, my child, who was struggling with drug addiction for many years. When I found a support group led by Nancy King, I had attended other groups, but they did not want to talk about the day-to-day struggles and were not helpful to me. I stumbled upon COPE by doing a Google search, and my first meeting was a game changer. COPE meetings are different than any other I had attended. Those in attendance were both the ones struggling with addiction. Page 2. And also those that love them. That could include their family members or friends. So we heard many perspectives of the recovery process and were able to share many useful ideas on how to navigate through issues. All this discussion is done without any shame. If you know anything about drug addiction, you know it is a very lonely experience for all. No one understands the day-to-day events that addiction causes, those afflicted and those that love them. At that first meeting, I heard people talk about things that sounded so familiar to me and what I had been dealing with. It was like a breath of fresh air to have a group that understood. I did not have a good relationship with my daughter at that time because I was afraid of the drug, basically. I loved her, but hated the addiction. Nancy helped me to be able to have a much needed loving relationship with her by setting boundaries that helped me help her. Outside the meetings, Nancy was always just a phone call or text away to help me navigate through that dark and scary world. And I am so glad she did, because today my daughter is 5 years clean, living a fantastic and normal life, has a full-time job with benefits, and has repaired all previously broken family relationships. She is making a beautiful present and future life for herself. My days begin brighter because she texts me every morning telling me that she loves me. How did this happen? Nancy guided me through the ups and downs, and whenever my daughter was open to help to fight the battle, Nancy had contact numbers of people and places to call for help with rehab, sober living, and job training for decent jobs. Nancy also had classes and events for us to help deal with the stress we were living with. Classes like yoga, Tai Chi, boxing, painting, acupuncture, meditation, and so much more. But these classes helped me take care of me, so I was able to function more clearly in my life and help my daughter when needed. There was truly no one like Nancy King. She turned her pain and tragedy of losing her much-loved daughter into a passion to help others understand and navigate addiction, and to ultimately help others live a success story. I thank Nancy and am forever grateful to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Kara Trainer, and I'm a resident of Kalamazoo County. I am speaking out today to ask for funds to be allocated to COPE Network. As a person in long-term recovery from substance abuse disorder and a peer recovery and outreach coach at ISK, working in the ERs of both hospitals, I witnessed and experienced the front lines of the opiate epidemic, a public health emergency. I see many people in crisis, many people unhoused, many people with broken bodies due to substance abuse. I can refer people to treatment, but treatment is not a cure. When an individual leaves the treatment center, that is where the work begins. Without community supports, many relapse quickly and some die. Without those community supports, we are left with nothing. The process of change is lengthy, and individuals are in need of organizations that they can go to that honor their pathway of recovery. COPE Network is one of those organizations. Individuals are met with compassion, no judgment, and an approach that meets the individual exactly where they're at. In the recovery community, the name COPE is famous. I can tell you of so many people that utilized COPE's services when they were at their bottom. People that were lost, unhoused, overdosing, and broken that are now thriving due to COPE. Holding down jobs, getting licenses back, going back to school, having their children and family in their life again, and becoming self-sufficient again. Not to mention the fact that COPE provides Narcan to our community. Fentanyl is the #1 cause of death to individuals 18 to 45 right now. And the opiate epidemic is still raging with over 100,000 overdoses in one single year. I have watched Nancy King, director of COPE, work tirelessly and with dedication to make sure that Narcan is in the hands of any person wanting it. Her outreach and education efforts are heroic. At a time when 2 epidemics are playing out at the same time, to not provide more funding to COPE Network is to passively watch people die a preventable death. I urge you to see COPE Network as what it really is, an organization that saves lives. Every single penny that goes to COPE is a penny that may save somebody's child, spouse, partner, or loved one. In Michigan, we are right now losing 8 people a day from overdose. This is the time to act.
Thank you. Welcome, Prosecutor Yedding.
Thank you, Chairman Quinn. Chair Quinn, Vice Chair Morales, members of the Board of Commissioners. As Chairperson Quinn has said, my name is Jeff Getting. I'm the Kalamazoo County Prosecuting Attorney. I want to first publicly thank Administrator Catlin for what I anticipate will be his recommendation during your meeting today to allocate available rescue plan dollars to the provision of government services for the purpose of funding victim advocates within my office. As you're aware, we have recently and suddenly lost funding that had been made available from the state for over 3 decades for 2 of our 8 victim advocates. This funding is recommended by Administrator Catlin. It does not come at the expense of any of the other rescue plan dollars that have already been recommended. This is additional funds that are available in the rescue plan that he is recommending to you. I also want to thank you for your anticipated support of that spending. And in support of that, I came across this a couple of days ago from the chief of my victim advocate division regarding reporting that we had made to the state as part of our crime victim services requirements for the 3rd quarter of this year. The 3rd quarter, not the year to date, simply the 3rd quarter. In the 3rd quarter of this year, we provided services to over 1,100 victims of crime here in Kalamazoo County. Those services included hundreds of letters sent to the victims in felonies and misdemeanors within 7 days of the defendant's arraignment, their first appearance in court, to hundreds of victims in juvenile court within 72 hours of that juvenile petition, the charging document having been filed. Over 640 victims who were contacted to be provided with information regarding a defendant's sentencing or scheduled disposition. 428 actually contacts sent to victims providing post-conviction information. 10 victims contacted regarding appeals during that reported period. And I think probably most importantly, over 100 victims that were personally accompanied during court proceedings and to, from, and during the court proceedings during that last quarter. I also think it's important to recognize the types of actions that they're taking in order to make sure that they continue to be the best at what they do. In the last quarter, victim advocate Michelle Matson attended trainings on child pornography. Victim advocate Stella Shavakis attended, she's our juvenile court person, attended trainings on teen dating violence, seeking intentions and behaviors among ethnically and racially diverse youth, housing stress and child maltreatment, polyvictimization of youth. And I also want to say, in listening to the other requests that have been made, the victims of crime in this community are oftentimes those persons that are the most vulnerable. They are the persons who are struggling with substance abuse addictions. They are minorities. They come from lower socioeconomic neighborhoods. They're racially, ethnically diverse. They're oftentimes persons from our LGBTQ plus community. In the middle of this morass that you've heard described here today are the victim advocates in my office, providing services to hundreds of people who have been traumatized by the loss of a loved one in a murder, a sexual assault, a robbery, a home invasion, domestic violence. Commissioner Hall asked me to look again at our numbers. The last 2 years, 2020, we had over 850 incidents of domestic violence charged in this community. There's thousands that went uncharged. In 2021, we had the same number. We're always going to be within 50 of that number. It might be 100, we might be 900, we might be 825, but we're always right in that 850, 250 plus of which every year are repeat offenders. And we see the same thing with our victims who are repeatedly abused either by the same person or moving from one abusive relationship to another. Thank you for your support for these vitally important employees here in Kalamazoo County, and I will be available later on for any questions that you may have with regard to Administrator Catlin's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for everything that you've been doing in reviewing the ARPA applications. I know that must have been arduous. So just thank you for all the time that you have done in your subcommittees to get to tonight. I've been a resident of Kalamazoo County since I was in middle school. And now at 37 years old, I am proud to remain in this county. I went to Western. I have worked in nonprofits here in Kalamazoo County for over 15 years. And what I am here to bring to say to you tonight is that the one thing that remains the same in every position that I've held in nonprofit is that I am encountering those who are living with addiction or those who care or love someone living with addiction. And also obviously noticing the lack of services for people who are supporting those in addiction. So tonight I want to, of course, declare my support and backing for COPE.
And I just want to tell you a little bit about how it has impacted my work and then also my life as well. So as I said, in work, surprisingly, it wasn't always clients that I had that I was supporting with addiction issues. It was also coworkers and friends at work, right, that had this going on in their families, sometimes in their home, and trying to focus on themselves and making sure that their children were not experiencing significant trauma, or they were maybe caretaking for their partner who wasn't working. So they had fiscal responsibility in that home. And then the thing that they needed the most was support, right? However, in our world today, it's taboo a lot of times to bring up addiction, especially at work. So knowing that there was COPE in this community was very important to me. And for me to be able to share with people that it was a resource where you could go, where you could talk about how at every hour of the day, there was a fleeting thought that came through that was related to fear around something that might happen with the person that you care about who is living with addiction. Also, I've experienced working with people who have lost people to addiction, as many of us have. And same kind of thing. It wasn't always a safe place for someone to talk about those issues and bring them up. And COPE provides that space to families, to friends, to partners, parents, siblings, co-workers, etc. In the community, in my work, for those that are living with addiction, it has definitely been imperative to be able to support a person by saying you can go here, and they have these activities, and it's not just an AA group. It is that you can actually engage with people and have fun sober, or do yoga sober, right? And you can be around people who understand what you're going through. So, I've seen it kind of on different levels. I think it's very important for the success of our community that we have these resources for people with addiction or their family members or friends that are living with addiction, because it contributes to the greater good, right? We have less generational trauma. We have people who are able to show up to work. We have people who are, when they're at work, are more productive because they're not as worried about that person living with addiction. So I think, this money, I know we won't get probably again in our lifetime, right, for the county. So wouldn't it be great to give to an organization that we know is going to have some transformational impact on our community, economically, socially? It's a great opportunity, and I hope that you will support COPE with funding for a new home. Thank you.
Thank
Oh, I
you.
didn't say my name. My name is Ashley Choker. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Administrator, do we have recordings or people online waiting?
We do have one hand raised, and I'll bring that person over.
Thank you, Dina.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. Hello, my name is Erica Hamlet, and I am speaking on behalf of the Kalamazoo County Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Council in support of our request for funding for our organization's program. KCAN has existed in Kalamazoo County for over 40 years as the only organization that focuses on the prevention of child abuse and neglect. Child abuse and neglect in itself is considered an adverse childhood experience, also known as ACEs. And ACEs are directly linked to many of the issues that we're hearing about tonight: homelessness, substance abuse, higher suicide rates. The more ACEs that a person experiences, the more likely they are to experience disparities in later life. And so child abuse and neglect being an ACE is extremely important to address within our community, especially coming from the time in the pandemic where in 2019, before we shut down, we were on average as a state of Michigan receiving about 100,000 calls into CPS every year. Once we shut down, that number dropped to 66,000. And we know that in one of the most stressful times that we have faced as a nation, that child abuse and neglect did not decrease. We know that children were isolated with abusers. We know that families didn't have access to the supports that they needed in order to provide appropriate parenting skills and have support in order to keep their children safe. And in our organization, we are focusing, we have a huge focus right now on educating our community members on how to recognize abuse and neglect and how to report abuse and neglect through our recognize and report training. We also are in school. We're back in schools this year, educating children on safe touch, inappropriate touch. We educate children on how to use their voice if they are ever found in unsafe situations. We help children identify safe individuals in their life that they can talk to, as well as identifying tricky people in their life. We also are working on bringing the protective factors training, which is a research-based model in order to decrease the risk of abuse and neglect, bringing this training and education to families that have high risk of abuse and neglect, that may be experiencing homelessness or may have other risk factors that will increase the risk of abuse and neglect. And so we as an organization ask for these finances in order to expand the programming that has already shown to be successful, so we can reach more children, we can educate more community members. We don't want to just educate mandated reporters. We want to educate mandated reporters, but we also want to be reaching the clerk in the grocery store or the person who's, handing out tickets at the movie theater. We want to educate people in parks who are interacting with children and in camps. And then we want to expand our Kids Are Special program to be able to reach thousands and thousands of children with this information that helps empower them to protect themselves if the time comes when they need that. So I thank you for reading our proposal, and I thank you for the recommendation. And I'll be here if there are any questions to answer about our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamlet, for the work you do. Very important.
Thank you.
Good to hear from you again. All right. Administrator, any others?
I believe that's it.
This time we will enter we will close public comment time and enter a public hearing for a brownfield plan for 5704 East N Avenue in Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49048, the brownfield plan. Does anyone wish to speak on this issue? Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Joe Augustinelli with Michigan Growth Advisors. I'm the brownfield consultant on the project. I'll spare the details of the project that we went through a couple of weeks ago at the committee of the whole meeting, but here tonight to say thank you to the board. We're very excited to hopefully see this project move forward. It's a huge investment in the industrial real estate market that we desperately need in Kalamazoo County. But I would like to introduce the developer on the project. Greg Delaney is here with Industrial Partners USA. He can give a few words about his company because he wasn't able to join the committee of the whole meeting, and tell you a little bit more about the project as well. Greg.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Delaney, I'm from Industrial Partners USA. We're a joint venture between a firm out of South Bend, Indiana called Great Lakes Capital and a local firm, Clark Logic. It's been headquartered in Three Rivers originally and now in Portage, Michigan. In business since 1969. So we embarked on a project a couple of years back together in Battle Creek that just completed for our first spec build. And here in Pavilion Township in Kalamazoo County, we're looking at a 1,093,000 square foot facility. It's speculatory in its nature, and we're excited to bring it to the community. We've got a lot of interest and understand the demand for the marketplace right now, and have in a pretty unique position to help foster this forward and provide a lot of growth for the community and create jobs. Good. Any questions? Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm Ken Paragon. I'm a resident of the city of Kalamazoo, but I'm also the chair of the Kalamazoo County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And I'm here to speak about this terrific public-private partnership between the developer, Brownfield Authority, and the County Land Bank. It's really a great opportunity to develop a site that probably couldn't be developed otherwise. It's been sitting there for a while, and this process will enable the development of that project. I will, as I always want to do, is to emphasize that Pavilion Township supports this project. We on the Brownfield Authority cannot move forward with a brownfield plan unless the local jurisdiction also supports the project, and they have supported it. The tax increment revenue that this will generate will help us, allow us to reimburse the developer for eligible costs. It'll also help us recoup our administrative costs. And then I think it's about 25 years, when none of us are paying any attention to this project, we're going to be able to finance our local brownfield redevelopment fund, which will help keep brownfield redevelopment going in the long distant future. The brownfield staff, Macy Walters, who's on maternity leave now, I think she sent out an email to get all the parties in the right place at the right time on her way to the hospital before she had her baby. And Rachel Grover, now planning director, done a terrific job of vetting this. Our legal counsel vetted it. Our environmental consultant vetted it. The board vetted it. We're had a lot of questions, and this process is moving forward. We're excited about this terrific project. It's a great project for the community. Going to bring tax increment. It's going to bring jobs, and we would encourage you to support it. Thank you very much.
Are there any other comments on the brownfield plan? Do we have recordings of persons online? None. Is there a commissioner question or comment on this? Commissioner Gisler.
Thank you, Chair. It's not a question, it's a clarification in case somebody wasn't making notes when they last presented here. I've since then watched them present to the Pavilion Township Board, and the building that they're talking about, if it goes to its full completion, I understand it's going to be done in phases, but when it's done, if it gets to that point, it'll be about 3 times the size of the FedEx facility on Portage Road in Portage. And I don't know if you've had a chance to go into that building. I did. It's huge, and this will be ultimately 3 times that. So we're not talking about small industrial development. We're talking about major stuff. I don't know how that compares to Midlink. Yeah, maybe that's 1 million square feet. Does anybody happen to know that? Joe, you must know it.
Midlink's 1.8 million square feet.
Oh, excellent. Fran knew that.
Anyone else? Seeing none, without objection, we will close public hearing on this brownfield plan for 5724 East North Avenue in Kalamazoo. Moving on to proclamations. Have a proclamation honoring Mr. James F. Madison for 23 years service of with Kalamazoo County, which I will read. Whereas James F. Madison has served the citizens of Kalamazoo County for 23 years as of August 31st, 2022. And whereas James Madison has faithfully served as medical examiner investigator by investigating death scenes in our county on behalf of the medical examiner. Medical examiner investigators are trained to evaluate death scenes, gather and document relevant information for the medical examiner, and serve as a compassionate source of information for families. With well over 3,000 investigations to his credit, Mr. Madison has worked tirelessly with grieving family members to obtain necessary medical and social history, provide information so final disposition arrangements can be made, and share community and professional resources available. He also built a positive rapport with law enforcement, medical responders, local funeral homes, and other community agencies. Mr. Madison has performed these duties with the professionalism, respect, and compassion anticipated during difficult situations such as these. Whereas the County of Kalamazoo wishes to acknowledge and honor employees who have longevity under the umbrella of county government, since it is through longevity that expertise in the employee's particular field is achieved. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge with gratitude the many years of dedication and service James Madison has imparted to the citizens of the county and offers its best wishes for a happy and healthy retirement. Commissioner comments? Do we have a motion?
So moved, Hall.
Moved by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Hepler to approve the proclamation. Clerk, please, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales,
Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Sugars,
Yes.
Commissioner Strebs absent, Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
10 yes.
Thank you, Clerk. This proclamation is approved. I'd like to invite Mr. Madison and also Commissioner Bruder Melgar to the lectern for awarding the proclamation.
I'll keep this really brief, but these investigators are on 24/7, 365. They wake me up at 2 a.m. And he always had a happy voice. He's always and he would say, "Look, if I've got to be up, you've got to be up too." But he had reasons to call, and I'll miss hearing you in the middle of the night or the middle of the day. But the investigators, they work with the families on the absolute worst day, the worst moment of their lives, and it's a tough job. Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation honoring Ms. Heather Rose, which I'll read. I don't believe she's present here tonight, but whereas Heather Rose has served the citizens of Kalamazoo County for 25 years as of August 4th, 2022. And whereas Heather Rose has faithfully served as court services specialist 2 for district court. And whereas the County of Kalamazoo wishes to acknowledge and honor employees who have longevity under the umbrella of county government, since it is through longevity that expertise in the employee's particular field is achieved. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kalamazoo County Board of Commissioners does hereby acknowledge with gratitude the many years of dedication and service Heather Rose has imparted to the citizens of the county and offers its best wishes for many more years of mutual association. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Commissioner Bruder Melgar, supported by Commissioner Tunier. Any discussion? Clerk, please, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Gisler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales,
Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Sugars.
Yes.
Commissioner Strebs absent, Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
10 yes.
Thank you, Clerk, please. The proclamation honoring Heather Rose is approved. Item number 10, additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda.
Chair? Are we gonna add discussion about our corporate counsel interview, or we do that tonight?
Please do so.
Thank you.
All right. Any others?
Chair, I just want to be clear where that should go in the agenda. Where would you like that to go?
Yeah. Commissioner McKissick.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to, under Board of Commissioners, remove 2022-4827 from the consent agenda.
Yes, Chair, I'm not entirely clear if this is the case, but I think we need to remove one of the subcommittee recommendations, the negatively impacted, because I thought we're meeting tomorrow.
That'll be disproportionately impacted communities. It's a separate, different committee.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry, I misread that.
Any other changes, additions, deletions? Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Commissioner Ray, supported by Commissioner Hepler. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The agenda is approved as amended. Did we? No. Communications reports, Commissioner McKissick.
Thank you, Chair. We have Clinton County Resolution opposing House Bill 4730. Clinton County Resolution establishing a task force to guide the expansion of broadband infrastructure. A letter from the Road Commission regarding upcoming terms expiring.
Any other commissioners with communications? Commissioner Gissler.
Could I ask for a clarification? The road commission letter regarding upcoming terms, is that the Kalamazoo County Road Commission? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I've received communication regarding ISK's project, COPE's project, Milestone, and the Victims Advocate position, all positive, also in support of that over the last couple of weeks.
Thank you, Chair. I received several communications about the uptick in airport transportation traffic. I think WMU has some training, I don't know what they're called, training propeller airplanes that are coming over the Millwood area, starting at about 5:30 in the morning. And to my knowledge, I know the director emailed this back, but I thought it was supposed to stop at 11. Being a resident of that neighborhood, I hear flights still going well after 11. So I had several constituents reach out and just wanted to bring that information forward to see how we need to proceed to make sure that policy is in place.
Thank you. Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you, Chair. Just for a point of clarification, I know there are hours that you are not supposed to fly into or out of the Kalamazoo Airport, but last time I was with the group, which was a while back, they have penalties for that. There are fines to be paid, and I would imagine some of those flights, the people responsible for them are willing to pay the price to get in early or late or whatever. So it may not be that they're violating, the equivalent of a law. They're just willing to pay the price. Thank you.
We're not talking about commercial flights. We're talking about training. Well, I would like to see if they are getting fines, because per the director, they didn't specify that.
Thank you, Chair. I would suggest that Director Williams and you and I sit down and meet with them. And it's kind of interesting because it's pretty technical with a number of things as far as commercial and the aviation and that type of thing, the props versus, but anyways, we'll get together. Is that okay? Would you like to do that? And I don't want to, I want the expert to kind of explain it to us.
I'm cool with that.
And Commissioner Stubbs should be included too, because she had an email that she sent to Craig also. And I think that would be very good. And if anybody else wants to join in, unless we get over 6, then might have to post it. But it's very interesting, and so yeah. Sorry to get away from the agenda, Chair.
Any others? All right. Commissioner McKissick, will you please read the consent agenda as amended?
Yes, thank you, Chair. 2022-4869, recommendation for approval of accounts payable and payroll disbursements. Under administration, 2022-4444, request for a resolution to approve and sign agreement to purchase 311 and 315 East Alcott for the purpose of buying out the lease for the Health and Community Services Department. Under finance, 2022-4877, request for approval of a resolution authorizing the redemption of 2015 capital improvement bonds prior to maturity. Under health and community service, 2022-4746, request for approval of amendment number 2 to the fiscal year 21-22 comprehensive agreement with the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the health officer to electronically sign the agreement on the county's behalf through eGRAMS. 2022-4633, request for approval and signature of amendment number 8 of Area Agency on Aging's contract number HCS 2019-009 with Milestones Senior Services to update the funding allocations table. Under Housing, 2022-4830, request for approval and signature of a grant agreement with the City of Portage and Kalamazoo County in the amount of $221,456. Did I read that wrong? Yeah. Under Human Resources, 2022-4804, Medicare Plus Blue Insurance Renewal. Under Sheriff, 2022-4817, request to create positions within the Office of Community Corrections. Under Board of Commissioners, 2022-4863, request for approval to appoint Fred Sellers to the Environmental Health Advisory Council. I move that the consent agenda items be voted on at one time by a roll call vote and be considered consent by the board.
Moved by Commissioner McKissick and supported by Commissioner Hepler that the approval of the consent agenda. Clerk, please, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler.
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick.
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales.
Yes.
Chair Quinn.
Yes.
Commissioner Ray. Commissioner Sugars.
Yes.
Commissioner Strebs, absent. Commissioner Tenier.
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar.
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler.
Yes.
10 yes.
Thank you, Clerk, please. Thank you, Commissioners. Going on to non-consent, we have 2022-4450, request for approval of a resolution to approve the 5724 East N Avenue, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Brownfield Plan. Is moved by Commissioner Sugars, supported by Commissioner Tunier. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? The resolution is approved. Okay. Next, we have a request for approval of provision of government services ARPA subcommittee recommendations in the amount of $14,182,000, subject to final consultant review for ARPA eligibility and for the board chair to sign agreements once approved to form by corporate counsel. Is there a motion? Commissioner? Moved by Commissioner Hepler.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Hall. Discussion. Administrator.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple of comments to make the board aware of the process and what has transpired. So this recommendation was created based on feedback received from commissioners who participated on this subcommittee. As a result of recent discussions, I would like to amend not the actual motion, the total dollar amount, but rather the programmatic allocations that are within the administrator's recommendation tonight. So what I'd like to do, as you've heard from the prosecutor, and I believe, his office has shared a lot of information regarding the victims advocates positions. My recommendation initially allocated $2.15 million for buildings and grounds to conduct a lot of deferred maintenance on our various buildings. I expect that 2.15 million, and I've spoken to the director, it's quite high. And realizing and recognizing that this funding needs to be spent by 2026, I'd like to pare down that request to 1.733 million. And then increase the prosecutor's request from $0 to $417,000 as requested, so that those positions can continue and that we can make an impact on our victim advocates and the victims in this community as we experience crime, increased crime. So what I'd like to do is that would keep the recommendation tonight at the 14,182,000. I apologize. So 14,182,000. So programmatically, we'd shift some spending within there, pare down the building and grounds requests, increase the prosecutor's request. That way we take care of that. This subcommittee met, I believe we met about 3 times, reviewed staff recommendation. The commissioners that participated on this committee had feedback to present. So we came up with, culminated this recommendation as a group and then brought it forward to the board. So happy to answer any questions, and I thank you.
First, we would need a motion. Did we? Okay, oh, I'm sorry. Your point well taken. All right, Commissioner Sugars.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So a motion would be in order to amend this action form to accept the administrator's amended programmatic recommendation regarding the victim advocate and the building and grounds category.
Can I just amend my original motion then? Would that be correct, Council?
Procedurally, I'd recommend the path I've just laid out. I think it'll be cleaner that way since we can have that description in this amendment.
Okay. Commissioner Sugars.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm sorry, did we have support?
Well, okay, but then my question is the amount. He wasn't real specific. What is the exact amount? Is it 75,000? What is the exact amount that you want to transfer from the building and facilities 2.150 to the prosecutor that's currently 0, correct? We're in, well, the 417.
It's 417 that's needed for the prosecutor's office.
Yes, so Commissioner Sugars, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioner. So in the yellow is the recommendation that was going to be entertained tonight. However, I'm asking that the programmatic change be amended to pare down the buildings and grounds request. I believe they have 2 requests. So it's the building and grounds number one request. So to pare down from $2,150,000 to $1,733,000. So that request that was recommended is at 2.15 million right now. I'm requesting that be amended to decrease to 1.733 million. That is a $417,000 difference that would then shift over to the prosecutor's request to fully fund it. I hope that provides clarification.
Yes, for the people that are watching, the prosecutor originally was recommended 0. We're going to fulfill the whole amount of 417 and take it away from the facilities of, okay, so her motion is 417. Does that address your, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
So discussion on the amendment. Any other? All right. Commissioner Bruder-Melgar.
I just have a question about this committee. So are we done with that issue? I'm good with that issue, the amended thing, or do we need to vote on that first?
You need to vote on that.
Okay.
Commissioner Sugars.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I think it'd probably be appropriate to ask the members of the committee if they're acceptable to that. I mean, I think procedurally that would be a proper thing to do. Is anyone on the committee objective? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Could I ask for clarification on which of the items on the agenda we're talking about shuffling some money around?
It is 2022-4824.
I definitely have a comment to make about that. since that's the big pot right now that's on the table. Somehow, the consolidated dispatch operation was egregiously, in my opinion, left out of ARPA funds. They didn't get any directly, and they're certainly they're the first responders of the first responders. I would like to see them get incorporated into ARPA funding because of the service they provided during COVID. Got to have your consolidated dispatch people answering the phones, otherwise 911 doesn't answer.
Okay, but
I didn't see that.
yeah, that doesn't seem to be relevant to the motion here. So are we,
Point of order, Chair.
Vice Chair, state your point of order, please. Commissioner Gissler, your microphone.
Counselor, we need to vote, correct? Thank you.
Voting on the amendment.
Your point is well taken, Vice Chair. All right. Roll call vote, please. Clerk, please.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales,
Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray, Commissioner Sugars,
Yes.
Commissioner Streps, absent, Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you, Clerk. The amendment is approved. Now back to the 4824 as amended. Do we have discussion? Commissioner Bruder Melgar.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to ask a question of this committee. One of the things that seemed to get a complete allocation was the 8th District Court VPN computers for all of the staff. And like the drain commissioner, that seems like it's something that people in the community would be benefiting from. The drain commissioner request got nothing regarding flooding issues, which seems to be a big issue. So I guess I'm just wondering if there was a feelings that the drain commissioner can get money somewhere else, or I know the drain commissioner got some money for a different project, but I was just kind of wondering, do we really need to do VPN computers to the entire staff, or do you pick that out for a smaller group that need to be working from home and give some money to the drain commission? So if the committee could answer that.
Thank you, Chair. Basically, we are giving the drain commissioner $2.5 million to rebuild a dam, which is critical to the infrastructure and the safety of the folks in the south part of the county, as this is at what, Sunset Lake, I think. And it is a old dam that needs to be, but we didn't have enough to fund everybody's request. There's only so much water in the well. And so we did give the drain commissioner a large chunk of money in one fell swoop to do that project, and other ones we'll have to see where we can go with that. But that drain commissioner did get a large amount of funding.
Any other? Commissioner Gissler.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm still concerned that somehow essential workers did not include the people who were answering the 911 calls all through COVID. And in the most recent set of emergencies, they were there. I don't know if they were working overtime, but they were working constantly through the night. And I don't think it's right for them to be somehow bypassed by the ARPA funding that we spread to all county employees, but somehow missed this bunch. I don't know who signs their paycheck, but they're county employees, I would assume. I'll stand corrected.
Administrator, are they third party? I thought 911 calls with city and sheriff was a third party that they're not included in. It is, okay, thank you.
All 911 calls go to that place out on Stadium Drive and 8th Street. There is no additional PSAP in existence any longer. So we started out with 5 and now we're down to 1, and that's where it is. And I think to not treat those people as essential employees and pay them for the work they did during COVID is egregious. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Quinn. Commissioner Gensler, I do hear where you're coming from. I'm wondering if we know if Portage or the city of Kalamazoo put in funding for 911.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner Hall, I actually cannot answer that question. I do not know at this time. I can say that when I'd like to clarify. So this provision of government services did not review essential worker premium pay. So just wanted to clarify that. That was a separate subcommittee. However, we did look at, and we'll get to that point in the discussion for essential worker premium pay. We did look at the other units of local government and other entities that did apply for that funding and determined that either they received ARPA funding, so they could have allocated their own dollars to their own employees to satisfy those requests, or the entities had considerable fund balance that they could have attributed to compensate their employees if they felt that essential worker premium pay was a priority for them, as this board did.
Thank you, Administrator. And Chair granted me a quick sort of follow-up. I went with Commissioner Gensler's lead on the essential workers pay, but my comment would still, I guess my question would still be the same, whether we're talking about some other project. Did the other entities that are part of this one PSAP put any ARPA dollars in? Because we're all in it together. So I would hope we were rowing together, but I hear Commissioner Gensler, and I mean that with respect. And so I would like to know what maybe the cities put in.
Mayor Anderson, would you like to weigh in on this question?
Point
Zero.
of order.
I
He's
see- I
here
see
for
it.
a different, he's here wearing a different hat.
Thank you, Chair. I think that both previous commissioners have very valid points. The Commissioner Gensler talked about 911. It's a separate authority, so it's a separate entity. The Road Commission and the Airport Authority are separate from the county. We do appoint on the latter two, the Road Commission and the Airport Board Authority. And also on the 911, a couple of positions representing the county. I think Commissioner Hall is correct. However, I would go a little bit further, not just the people that participated, like the Township of Kalamazoo, the city, the Portage, Western Michigan University, but all townships got ARPA too. And so to your point, everybody could be part of that. And so I think that it's a good point that Commissioner Gensler brings up. And I think your point is I would expand it to include all entities. So everybody's kind of into it. And I don't think we can answer that tonight, but I think the administrator taking back that information back to the committee, the subcommittee, is probably the appropriate thing to work out if it can be worked out. But I appreciate both of your points. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, it is not it's not my impression from this application that the Kalamazoo County Consolidated Dispatch Authority request for funding had anything to do with essential worker premium pay. It had to do with the functioning of their office and the stuff they needed to do to handle pandemic issues. But I was also on the subcommittee for the essential worker premium pay, and there was not a grant submission in there that I recall. Do you guys recall from the consolidated dispatch? So we can't give money for somebody that didn't submit a request. So I think from a essential worker premium pay, I think that's a non-starter. The big question then is, do we just support the organization through this grant application? And we did, that this subcommittee did approve a little over half of what the grant request was for. So I think at the very least, going ahead with that. I think there are a couple other allocations that could be fudged around to actually give that consolidated dispatch their full request, because the IT department got essentially everything they requested at full amount. The buildings and grounds got some huge allocations. I just saw a couple that I thought there could be a little bit of fudge room with, like the VPN computers or whatever, if we wanted to support consolidated dispatch. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. Vice Chair, Commissioners, and so one thing I really need to do is clarify and bring us back to the bucket of funding that we're talking about. So essential worker premium pay is a separate subcommittee, and we should not be muddying that with the provision of government services. We certainly could, but we established a separate subcommittee for that. So I would recommend that any discussions with essential worker premium pay stay with that subcommittee, and that the provision of government services recommendation before you not be amended to include anything to do with premium pay for outside entities.
Yes, I just want to bring forth that when we decided to break into these committees, we also talked about respecting the work that the committees were doing in that deliberation, as I hear that you met 3 times to come up with these figures. And I respect the fact that you took things into consideration to make the challenging decisions and recommendations that you made. And so I'm ready to vote on this.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting yes on this. And the concern I have with any of the recipients of any of these recommendations is, do they have the infrastructure of the ARPA requirements of compliance? Have they gone through single audits? Are they able, because I'm very concerned about future clawback, and on all these are all county related. Discover Kalamazoo has lost revenue, which they get allocation of the accommodations tax. And so I'm comfortable with that. I think the risk is low for clawbacks on all these. But as we dip in the other 2, I'm very concerned. Some of the other ones in the other 2 are, they have a bunch of experience with federal grants and single audit, and unfortunately, they're segregated together. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one point of clarification, because prior to this recommendation was the thing in our consent agenda regarding the essential worker premium pay. So I'm wondering if this final figure is including the essential worker premium pay money. No, it's not. Okay, thank you.
We have a restatement of the motion, please.
Okay, bear with me. To approve provision of government services ARPA subcommittee recommendations in the amount of $14,182,000, subject to final consultant review for ARPA eligibility. And 2, for the board chair to sign grant agreements once approved to form by corporation counsel. And the amendment to the motion includes to accept the administrator's programmatic recommendation regarding the buildings and grounds and prosecutor's requests.
Thank you, clerk, please. Are we ready for a roll call vote?
All right. Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales.
Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sugars,
Yes.
Commissioner Straps, absent, Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
Commissioner Gisler,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
9 yes.
Thank you, clerk. All right. Moving to 2022-4867, request for approval of the negative economic impact ARPA subcommittee recommendations in the amount of $5,850,000, subject to final consultation review for ARPA eligibility and for the board chair to sign grant agreements once approved to form by Corporation Council. Is there a motion?
So moved, Hall.
Moved by Commissioner Hall, supported by Commissioner Ray. Discussion. Administrator.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. So the recommendation before you is for the full amount that was allocated to the subcommittee, so the $5.85 million. And I just wanted to address Commissioner Sugar's comment about the sort of the risk assessment. So I wanted to remind the board, so in the motion, it includes kind of the caveat that all of these applications will go through another review, a very comprehensive and thorough review from our ARPA consultant, Guidehouse. And so we expect that to be very lengthy. What also would happen is that, so they'll kind of identify some problem areas that may need to be resolved. We may need to go back and forth between the applicants, but then also we need to create grant agreements too. So in the grant agreement, that will have all of the stipulations that will encompass and comprise the components of that agreement for them to actually
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler, Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler, your vote.
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you, clerk. The motion is carried. All right. 2022-4876, request for approval of Public Health ARPA Subcommittee recommendations in the amount of $5,095,650, subject to final consultation review for ARPA eligibility and for the board chair to sign a grant agreement once approved to form by corporate council. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Bruder Melgar, supported by Vice Chair Morales. Is there discussion? Administrator.
Thank you for indulging me again. So tonight before you, yes, is a recommendation for the $5,095,650. So as you are aware, this subcommittee was allocated $5.85 million. So that means that there's an additional $754,350 on the table. And staff would recommend that go back to provision of government services as there are requests within that bucket that have not been fulfilled. Public Health Subcommittee met, I believe, twice and deliberated for a lengthy amount of time on these recommendations. And so they spent quite a bit of time and put some thought into these recommendations and felt that this was an appropriate recommendation to bring forward to the full board. And happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Just wondering, there are about 3 grant applications with the $0 recommendation. Why were those recommended no funding and we have leftover remaining funds?
Anyone wishing to address this? Who was first? Commissioner Hall or Commissioner Bruder Melgar? Commissioner Hall.
It's my understanding that what we have left over will be allocated to go for one of the other subcommittees that had, where there was a greater need, and it was a provision of government services where, yeah. And so that's where we kind of agree, we made some agreements in that one.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think there, because we were in individual subcommittees, we were only seeing what we could see, not necessarily all the other committees. And there appeared to be bigger needs in some of the other groups. So we left a buffer with an option for that to go to something else. I'm not sure that we would all agree on what that other thing should be, but I think our administrator was making that suggestion based on him being at all of the committees. But I think how that final amount gets spent, maybe up for discussion. I do think there were some things in our subcommittee that appeared to be really kind of past the real necessity of using funding for like the foster care homes, which they're trying to COVID proof them at a point when COVID is less, when people are less vulnerable because they can get vaccinated and get protected. So spending $40,000 in modifying a foster care home didn't feel like as necessary a use. And there were a couple applications like that. So there were some things that either you give them the full amount or it's not worth it to give them anything, because without the full amount, they can't they can't proceed with the project. So some were decided based on that. But I think that flexibility of that last amount may be any individual commissioner's pet project that they really want to bring forward maybe, or other ones that people felt strongly they wanted to support but didn't have the money to do it.
Just to follow up, thank you for answering my question, Commissioner. So the remaining funds, do we decide collectively where that goes as opposed to just putting it in provisions of government services?
Yes, certainly. Yeah, I mean, my recommendation was to reallocate it to provision of government services, but that's certainly that's a board decision for sure. Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray,
Yes.
Commissioner Sugars,
No.
Commissioner Stubbs, absent, Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
Commissioner Gisler,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Morales.
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, clerk. Now we go back to 2022-4827. The request to eliminate the essential worker premium pay ARPA subcommittee And two, reallocate funding of $1,950,000 to the provision of government services ARPA subcommittee. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved by Commissioner McKissick, supported by Vice Chair Morales. Yep. Okay. Is there a discussion? Administrator.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. I just wanted to articulate the purpose of this action tonight before you. So staff was actually, so first of all, the Essential Worker Premium Pay ARPA Subcommittee did meet once. And originally that subcommittee moved forward a recommendation to the full board to fund all of the requests. So there were 4 requests in that bucket. And so one request was from the Kalamazoo Charter Township in the amount of $344,970. Another request from Kalamazoo Consolidated Dispatch Authority in the amount of $296,160. And then there were 2 additional, one from Richland Police Department, the Village of Richland, so $53,500. And then the last one was from the WMU School of Medicine, the Homer Stryker MD School of Medicine, which was a little over $1.8 million. And so at the end of that discussion, that ARPA subcommittee asked staff to kind of go back and review sort of the financial conditions of these entities and to understand if they had received ARPA funding. And so we found that Village of Richland did receive funding through the state, since they weren't what was called a there's a specific name for it. I can't even think of it. It's at the tip of my tongue, but they weren't one of the communities that received a direct allocation from the feds, and I can't think of the name that they use. So their money came from the state. Same with Kalamazoo Charter Township. They received money from the state in the form of ARPA funding. They actually put all of that funding towards provision of government services, as staff has recommended that we do with a large portion of our funding too, to take care of internal needs specific to their agency. And so we looked at that, and then we also looked at the Dispatch Authority and WMU Medicine. They appeared to have decent fund balance to contribute to that sort of priority if they wanted to. So that's when staff developed the recommendation to eliminate that funding, and then suggest and recommend that it go to the provision of government services bucket to address needs that are within that subcommittee. There are about, I believe, I'd say about 4 other funding requests within the provision of government services. One is like a $2.1 or $2.2 million project within the jail that needs to be done, and it involves their security system. And regardless if we don't fund it through provision of government services ARPA funding, one-time funding, we're going to have to fund that somehow, right? So we're trying to look at ways to eliminate what we believe would be unnecessarily distributing money out through the community when we have priorities of our own that we have to take care of with regard to deferred maintenance and those sorts of items with this one-time funding. So I wanted to provide some context with where this recommendation and how it was developed, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner McKissick, you had asked this to be pulled from consent agenda. Do you have comments?
I do. Thank you, Chair. Yes, so when the Essential Worker Committee met, it was prior to the allocations of what was left in the ARPA funding. So we kind of were hoping to regroup after we were given our the allotment. But the reason why I pulled this off the consent agenda is because I believe there's not an area that I come into where I am not hearing the impact of worker shortage and low pay equity and all of these things that could contribute to a person maybe not staying at their place of employment. Just as I advocated for essential worker pay for our county employees, I think that it is also important. I share with Commissioner Gisler and what he said initially before we got to this point, but that is why I chose to have this removed from the consent agenda, because I think we should consider essential worker pay for these applicants.
I think we all appreciate this is an issue worthy of discussion. And is there another commissioner comment? Commissioner Gessler.
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question probably you'll refer to Administrator. The question I have is, was the denial of any, whatever you want to call it, premium for workers that are essential or something like that, was the only reason the Consolidated Dispatch Organization did not receive any of that because you felt they had too big a fund balance?
Yes,
Yes,
so
sir.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner Gissler, to answer your question, so that was one task and one consideration that we did consider was how are they spending their own money and have they made it a priority internally? They did have a match for the 296,000, so they said they could contribute about 23,000 to that project, but you know, in my financial opinion, I believe that the county will want to see a more of a considerable match, considering their financials.
Are you aware that they're still building out their organization? They've never had their full organization in place?
I am aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I would support essential worker pay for the Consolidated Dispatch. And then also for me, I don't support moving the remaining balance to the provisions of government services. We have some other subcommittees where we weren't able to fully award grant applications that could also use the money. So maybe we should put it in a pot and we should have conversations, further discussions before just moving it to one place. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess what I'm hearing, at least there's at least some support for reconsidering or reassessing the essential worker premium pay subcommittee. We did not have a second meeting because the funding request was changed a couple weeks ago to consider putting on hold that subcommittee. But if there is the will within this body to reconsider that, then we should relook at those proposals. And I had forgotten because it's been so long, we met 6 weeks ago, I had forgotten about the Consolidated Dispatch request. But it wasn't a huge number of requests, and so we may be able to allocate some amount to those groups, but I think we at least should reconsider that. Sorry, and I agree with Commissioner Ray about having a pot at the end that we kind of maybe advocate for whatever things we feel got left out.
It's not very often I feel like I'm on a different side than Commissioner Ray or Commissioner Bruder Melgar. And I hear you and my heart is with you, but I also think about the things that our departments need. And I often wonder throughout this process, should we have started with them first? And I know that sounds very, very selfish. And I mean them and our authorities. And I know that sounds very selfish, but if they don't have the upgrades they need, or if something happens in their building or what have you, where are we going to get that funding to replace that? I would be I have a giving and generous heart. I would be a lot more open to this had those other municipalities or local units of government also put in, made essential premium pay a priority for them. We battled this essential pay, not battle, that's the wrong word. We worked on that together, the 11 of us, for over a year before we got something, or almost a year, I guess I don't want to exaggerate, but almost a year before we actually got to consensus and a conclusion, and that was hard. It would have been nice to see others do the same and put their employees first, because I know where our hearts are. I'm sure their hearts are in the same place. My heart is with the county as a whole and our authorities. But, Commissioner Sugar, you talked about one of our authorities where, we funded Discover Kalamazoo tonight because they lost a lot of revenue. We only funded them a small bit. And that's so that's, call me selfish. I just think that maybe could have prioritized better for our own business. Gesundheit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is a motion on the floor, correct? So we need
The
to,
motion on the floor is,
point of order. Yes? Can we
yes, there
vote?
is a motion on the floor.
Vote, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask a question as to if we approve that, would we then be able to take possibly consolidated dispatch and move it into a different spot to fund it if we wanted to? Just a question.
That's a decision the board could make, yeah. Good place. Can I have roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Ray,
No.
Commissioner Sugars.
Yes.
Commissioner Stubbs, absent. Commissioner Tenier,
Yes.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
No.
Commissioner Gissler,
No.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
Yes.
Commissioner McKissick,
No.
Commissioner Morales,
No.
Commissioner Chair Quinn,
Yes.
5 yes, 5 no.
The motion fails. All right, that does it with the non-consent items here. Find my place on the agenda. We now enter again public comment time.
Corporate counsel.
You added to the agenda discussion of corporation counsel candidate
Oh.
at this point.
Point well taken. Thank you. I had not made a note of that, but point well taken. Is there a commissioner who will make a motion regarding the corporate counsel candidate? Commissioner Ray.
So I don't know if I'm gonna make the right motion, but I move that we do a conditional offer. What does that need to look like?
I'm happy to offer suggested language if you'd
Thank
like.
you.
Move to appoint Angelina Barnes as corporation counsel contingent upon completion of any remaining screening and her acceptance of an employment agreement approved as to form by Labor Council and authorize the board chair to sign the agreement.
What he said.
Moved by Commissioner Ray and supported by Vice Chair Morales. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please. Clerk, please.
Commissioner Sugars,
No.
Commissioner Stubbs, absent. Commissioner Tenier,
No.
Commissioner Bruder Melgar,
Yes.
Commissioner Gissler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Commissioner Hepler,
No.
Commissioner McKissick. Oh, we'll go back to her. Vice Chair Morales,
Yes.
Chair Quinn,
Yes.
Commissioner Ray.
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
All right. 7 yes.
Thank you, Clerk Place. The motion carries. Now we can enter public comment time. Anyone wishing to address the board on any issue, please come to the lectern. And we'd like to hear your name and welcome, ma'am.
There we go. Okay. Red, not blue. My name is Cassandra Boyd. I am the Fund Development Director for Milestone Senior Services. And I would just like to say thank you for the approval of the ARPA funds. We need them desperately. Some of you may know, some of you may not know. We have been in the community for over 53 years. And the work we do, like so many others that are here, it was very interesting to hear all the different things that are being funded, and all of our needs are great. So again, I thank you for the deliberation and the consideration that you all have put forth to make the decisions that you did tonight. So thank you on behalf of our CEO, Richard Klein, and myself, Cassandra Boyd. Now I gotta go pick my husband's prescription up. This was very interesting. I enjoyed myself tonight. Thank you.
Interesting for us too. Director Patton, welcome.
Thank you. And on behalf of our Board of Directors of Integrated Services of Kalamazoo, we will build a behavioral health urgent care and access center. One of the nice things about that is that people will get same-day access for services, same-day appointments, other than individuals having to wait sometimes days or weeks for appointments. This is going to make a major difference in Kalamazoo County, and I thank you all for approving our grant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mayor Anderson, welcome, sir.
Thank you. I just want to do a couple things here. First of all, it's been a pleasure spending the evening with you in your house over here on this august chambers. So thank you for that. I also just wanted to thank all the commissioners who did the work on the subcommittee, doing this work here, going through this very, very complicated process. I know how much work that can be. It's not easy to make decisions about requests that oftentimes you might feel are all qualified requests, and you have to decide between those things. So thank you very much for doing that hard work. I also want to recognize your housing director, Mary Balkema, who in my estimation has done a great job managing this process, helping with the subcommittee recommendations, working with applicants to make sure that we're providing the appropriate documentation for what you needed to review. So I want to recognize her great work. Thank you for keeping her busy, helping you get these housing choices done. And I know that you're going to have many years of this as these millage requests come forward, even as this ARPA money's gone. So once again, thank you. I appreciate spending the evening together, and thanks for your work.
Thank you for attending our meetings, Mayor Anderson. Good evening, sir.
Good
Welcome.
evening, Chris Sargent, CEO for United Way. I'm joined by my colleague Molly and online by our colleague Natalie. We just want to thank the commissioners for your thoughtful process and your generous continued support of United Way, in this case for small businesses in our community that I know we all care about. So your investment is appreciated, and just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Director Rutherford.
Thank you. I also want to thank the Board of Commissioners on behalf of public health and on behalf of all of the social services that are provided in the community, in the county. This was a very eclectic selection, and I think that you covered the gamut. I think you did it in very short order. Administrator Catlin and Mary Balkema, I think, helped lead the way throughout this. So it's a great service to the community, and I'm excited about the work ahead, and I'm proud of this Board of Commissioners tonight.
And we're proud to have bought you a house, sir.
Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, Board of Commissioners, my name is Mary Balkema. Tonight you approved $42 million in requests for absolutely critical services, and also HCS to get a permanent home. So I know the health director's in the house and he is very thrilled. And Chair, August 30, you're going to sign all the documents. So thank you for putting that on your calendar. But you know, $42 million is a big deal, especially I've invited many of our partners here. They have housing projects, they have senior projects, they have recovery projects. Nancy King with Cope Network, you heard a lot of folks talk about her. She came to the subcommittee. So thank you for taking the subcommittee's recommendation. Dr. Franz spent a long time on public health. And the work really, really does matter. And the deliberations were thoughtful. And I appreciate the administrator too, with his thoughtful recommendations. So I just wanted to say thank you.
It's not often I'm on this side, but I just wanted to echo what everyone else has already said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From my office, what you all did, that's digitizing 125 years of land records. Huge, huge. Thank you so much for the deliberation, for the thoughtfulness, and for working very hard on prioritizing internal departments. This means a lot, and I certainly hope we have a very large press release tomorrow that announces all the great work you all did. I certainly will share it and share it wide. So thank you so much. You all should be very, very proud of yourselves tonight.
Thank you. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I am the Deputy Executive Director of the Michigan AFL-CIO Workforce Development Institute. My name is Colleen Sullivan. I want to thank you so much for your appropriation this evening and also for all of the work that went into this process. As a former city councilor myself, I am both a little bit envious of being able to have so much money to invest in projects, but probably more so relieved that I did not have to make those difficult decisions. So I appreciate the work that happened among this body, of the subcommittees and all of the supporting staff that made it happen. I want to let you know that we're excited to continue our equity-focused apprenticeship readiness program here in Kalamazoo County, and also to tell you that we are currently building onto that. So this first fall's Access for All cohort will immediately follow sort of a bridge program here at the NACD that we're opening up to individuals that may not be ready to qualify for Access for All. So we're continuing that great work to raise people up in our community and provide more opportunities to get into well-paying jobs. So thank you for your work very much, and I look forward to the work ahead.
Thank you. Welcome. Good evening.
I'm Christine Vero. I'm a longtime resident of Kalamazoo County, and I am the chair of Trauma Recovery Associates. And I wanted to echo things that were said about all of you and all the people behind the scenes that were not sitting on this dais, for all the work that you've done, for your careful deliberation and what I know is very hard decisions. And I want to assure you that Trauma Recovery Associates, the entire board, every staff person and all the volunteers will do everything we can to show that we're worthy of the faith that you put in us. So we hope to have a great impact on this community and people who suffer from trauma. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome, sir.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Matt Hollander. I'm the president of Hollander Development Corporation, and I'm a resident of Kalamazoo County. First, I would like to extend my gratitude to all of you for supporting our Cal Recovery project tonight. We are working to create permanent, affordable, permanent supportive housing to individuals and families in recovery from substance use disorders. I cannot give you an eloquent speech about how important that is in comparison to any of the other folks who have spoken tonight. But what I can do is invite you to show you what it is that we're trying to do. On September 14th, we are leading a group to tour Andy's Place in Jackson, which is the first such project in the country. And we are attempting to do the second such project in the country here in Kalamazoo. Again, that tour is September 14th. You can contact me through Director Balkema. And again, thank you very much for your support tonight.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, Mrs. King.
On behalf of Cope Network, I can't express how much I appreciate this, giving an opportunity for a small nonprofit like ours to be able to grow and come back after all we've been through with COVID and all the people who have gone through so much in the years, especially with COVID, and how many people suffered. We saw 107,000 people die of an opioid-related death. 3,000 of that was in Michigan alone. And so being able to have the connections and have the support and to create a compassionate community to understand substance use disorder is a medical illness and people can recover. Housing isn't so important. Support systems, resources, all of this is critical to help not just the people who struggle with substance use disorder, but their families and our communities. So I can't express how excited I am for this opportunity to be able to allow us to be able to grow and complete our mission. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Welcome, former Commissioner.
Did you forget my
Zach
name?
Bauer.
Chair Quinn, Vice Chair Morales, commissioners, and our new administrator. I just wanted to again express my gratitude for your support of LISC's work in the economic development space. This commission in the last strategic planning session that I participated in began a discussion about how this body could participate in creating a more equitable economic environment here in Kalamazoo County. And today, in multiple ways, you've lived into that without maybe adopting it per se. And so I want to first thank you for that. And you did it in a way that represents the values of, I think, this body and what we've said in the past were our priorities. You know, principally with workforce development by working with WDI and the AFL-CIO. That grant itself will help partner with LISC's leveraged funds for the Youth Build program, also at NACD, which is a huge way for us to battle this lack of skilled trades we have in young people. And so thank you for funding that. Also, thank you for funding the United Way's request for small business supports. We see our small business support as a continuation of that work as we focus on particularly not only underserved populations here in Kalamazoo, but those that live and thrive in all of your districts. So I'll be reaching out to each one of you to learn more about who in your governments I should be talking to, unless you live within the city of Kalamazoo, I already know. But again, thank you, and thank you for this opportunity. And Commissioner Sugars, I always appreciate your fastidious attention to financial detail. I will say LISC is the largest recipient of HUD Section 4 funds with a single audit, and I'll love to send it to you so you have it in the future. So thank you. Have a good night.
Welcome.
In the shortest speech that I think I've ever given here, just let me say thank you very much for your support from my office, for our victim advocates, and for the people in the community that they serve. It really will make a difference. Thank you.
Well, you made a good case. So. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners, very much for the support. My name is Peter Vogel. I am the CEO of the South Michigan Food Bank, resident of Kalamazoo County. And I just really want to say thank you. It's been a really, really tough year for us. I mean, I think you guys have all known the challenges with food and food insecurity. We've set records the last couple of years in terms of pounds we've distributed. And this year's been a really hard year to be able to access the food. I've spent about $1.5 million over my budget buying food to try to fill the hole. And I just can't keep doing that for forever. So this is really, really making a huge, huge difference. We really, really appreciate the help. It's really going to make a difference. And it's actually going to allow us to we've been really working on trying to really identify isolated people that are food insecure, that maybe have transportation challenges or some other real issues. And that's been a population that's been harder to reach when I run out of resources. I have to kind of go back to the basic needs. So this is really going to make a difference in getting healthier foods out and making a real difference to a lot of people. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Anyone else? Administrator, do we have recordings or people online?
No recordings this evening for this part of the discussion. Dina, may you comment on
individuals with hands raised, please?
Yes, we have one hand raised.
Bring them over, please, Dina. Thank you.
Hi, this is Erica Hamlet from the Kalamazoo County Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Council. And I want to echo what everyone has already stated, thanking all of you for your dedication and your hard work, designating funds that will truly make an impact for those in Kalamazoo County. On behalf of KCAN, I want to thank you, but not only on behalf of our organization, but thank you from the thousands of children that will receive body safety, sexual abuse prevention education. Thank you on behalf of all of those community members who will become empowered advocates on how to recognize abuse and neglect and how to report abuse and neglect. And thank you on behalf of families who will be able to access resources via our organization to help them in times of need. Your guys's decision is not taken lightly, and I don't have enough words. I wish thank you was a bigger word, but thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, we'll now close public comment time and hear the county administrator's report.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. I just have a few items to go over. I just wanted to remind the board again that we do have two budget meetings scheduled for August 30th and 31st. And I think I left out the time for those. It's 4 p.m. And so we expect those to last about 2 hours for each session. And wanted to just clarify on the wage and classification study. So again, the consultant will be on the September 6th agenda, and we expect him to present on the committee of the whole agenda. And so next week on August 22nd, the HR director, myself, and Deputy County Administrator Moore will be meeting with the consultant to review the final deliverables. So hopefully on the 6th, we'll be able to go into more detail around the wage and classification study. And so please expect that on September 6th. Wanted to provide just an update on the gun violence initiative for phase 1 that the board approved with partnership between the city, county, and United Way administering that grant. So they've met with those 5 agencies through that closed process. So they're hoping to wrap up those discussions and kind of problem solve and collaborate between all of those agencies and begin the award process. So right now they're in the process of gathering or compiling a group of what they call community consultants. And so there is an individual that we've selected out of the circuit court of the juvenile home to represent the county as part of a community consultant. So we're trying to engage that employee and see if they would like to participate on that group to be part of that award process so that we have a voice in that. And then they hope to wrap that process up by the end of this month. And then deliverables to the county will entail quarterly reports. Right now, just so that I can provide and the city can provide reports to our respective bodies. We're hoping to meet with United Way kind of like on a biweekly basis in concert with our commission meetings so that we can provide updates during these portions of the meetings so that the board is kept apprised of everything that's transpiring and it's all positive, meaningful work. And then also have a narrative of what the activities or describing what activities have transpired with all of those organizations on a quarterly basis. And then I just want to thank you as well for your work tonight. I think, we've been here for 5 hours and 10 minutes so far. And there's been some really inspirational activity that has transpired tonight, especially with regard to ARPA funding. That has made a tremendous impact to a lot of the agencies that we have awarded funding to, but also the work that, you made a monumental decision to offer a conditional offer of employment for a corporation counsel position that we've had open for about almost 2 years, right? So, it's really, kudos to this body, this group tonight, interviewing those candidates
candidates and coming to a decision. Although one of the candidates that we had interviewed from the last go round had actually withdrew. I think that the individual this board selected tonight would be an excellent addition to the team, and hopefully she's willing to accept that conditional offer. So we'll be in touch and keep the board informed on that progress. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the administrator? Seeing none. Chairperson's report. I'm deeply grateful to all my fellow board members here for the work that we've done, for the very thoughtful discussions in these allocations. What we've done is in many different dimensions going to make positive impact on the lives of some of our residents, some of whom are not in the best of circumstances. We have voted to enhance their safety, their security, dignity, and I really appreciate it. I think we've done a pretty darn good job in handling our internal I don't say conflicts, but different views. And so I want to thank you one and all. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say good work to my colleagues tonight and congratulations to everybody who had funding awarded to them. I look forward to continuing to push our county forward and collaborate with these different entities to make sure we have resources for individuals that need it most. Thank you.
Commissioner McKissick.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say to everyone, be the change that you want to see. Good night.
Commissioner Hepler.
Thank you, Chair. I echo your sentiments, and I want to thank all of our colleagues, whether we agree or disagree. We know that there was a lot of requests for funding that we aren't going to be able to fund. Some were way, way bigger pieces of pie than we could ever afford. But the ones that we did fund, I think were very deliberately or decisively thought out, and I appreciate everybody's input. And I'm sure we will get the last part of this figured out and do some additional good work here in the near future. I would also thank our administrator for his hard work and Mary Balkema for her hard work of doing a lot of vetting with all these things. So it was a team effort, and I'm glad to see that we're getting this done and getting that money out there that as our other commissioners have said, that will make an impact on the community, our various folks here in the county. Please also keep in mind all of our military folks, our police, our fire, our ambulance, our hospital workers who have been working diligently to keep us all safe. When you see them, tell them thanks. And also our internal folks from our maintenance folks that take care of this all of our buildings throughout the county, and the work that they do to keep it clean and safe for us and cutting the grass and making things look good. Thank you.
Mr. Gissler.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to put ditto marks underneath what Jeff just said. Covered all the bases. Thank Kevin, thanked Mary, and thank virtually all of us, even though I was getting a little belligerent. You didn't use that word, Mike, but I appreciate it that you didn't use it. I just want to remind us that the stuff we've been doing now, getting ready to spread the ARPA funds, that's going to seem easy when we don't have ARPA funds to spread. And we are really going to learn what it is to prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I would also ditto what everyone else says. I would also like to add that it's
a whole lot more enjoyable to be a commissioner when you have money to give out and not when you're the target of anger and frustration. So this was definitely a much more pleasant meeting to attend, to be able to see this many people in attendance at the meeting and all of the great work that you people in the community are doing to make Kalamazoo an amazing county. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Quinn. Well done, Chair. And to the rest of our colleagues, big thank you to Director Balkema and Administrator Catlin and your team for helping us get through this process. Clerk, to you and your staff for showing up to all these extra meetings that we have. So very much appreciated. I do want to, take a moment. We wanted to do some transformational things with the ARPA dollars, and we're going to be able to do that. Well, our community is going to be able to do that for sure. And I'm really proud of us. Not only was there a diversity in the values with us that we supported tonight. There are some projects maybe because Dale supported, I probably normally wouldn't, but he supported some things that, well, never mind. But you know what I mean. I feel we stuck with what really matters in our own values, and that's equity. Even going back to my first term on this board, making our county a trauma-informed county and government, to stuff that I worked on with the prosecutor and a member of his team several years ago when thinking about domestic violence and things like that. So I'm really proud of us tonight, and thank you for all of that. Two more quick things. Earlier, I saw on the Facebook the other day, and so I just want to publicly acknowledge Miranda with Area Agency on Aging for her award as Regional Coordinator of the Year. So shout out to her. Director Rutherford, please tell Miranda I said congratulations. And then on August 27th, the organization that I'm part of outside of this, we will be doing a bicycle ride. I'm only bringing this up because, John, you brought up the waves. We're going to go riding around the wave bike lanes, and I would like to invite all of you to join out front and join us in our outride community cruise. And if you don't have a bike, we'll see if former Commissioner Bauer can purchase you all one, since he's the chair of the board. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair. I see citizen Zach Bowers in the audience, and I want to thank him for putting me on notice about the Sergeant Ryan Proxmire Memorial Golf Outing this August 29th. It's a Monday at Gull Lakeview Golf Courses, and it's $100 a person or $400 a team. I'm going to go ahead and sponsor a team, and I'm going to challenge all my colleagues, if you can't sponsor a team, at least contribute something to the outing. If you can go, do it. But Zach, I appreciate that, and I am going to have a team, and we will guarantee you we won't win. And so with that, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. With that, I'll pass. Have a good night, everyone.
There being no further business before the board, without objection, we are adjourned.
Recording stopped.